Welcome back to another episode of For the Ages, where we talk about all things golf history. We are coming to you live today from Austin, Texas, at the Just Push Record Studios. I'm your host, Cody Wise. I'm excited to bring on a guest today. The guest, he actually hails from the other side of the pond, so he is not stateside. He is known as the best dressed golfer in the East region. My friend Sam Jones, aka the Golf Fashion Guy. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you, man. Thank you for don't think I've had an intro quite that strong for a while. So no, happy to be here.
Yeah, well, when we connected off camera and you said your buddies dubbed you with that nickname, I was like, we gotta figure out a way to get that into the mix.
Yeah, I haven't heard it for a while. I'll be honest. So it's a nice surprise from my side.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really excited to jump in today. Episode really going to focus on the sort of evolution of golf fashion, golf apparel. You and I connected over Instagram. We talked offline, a lot of really cool things that I think we're going to be able to jump into today. But just so that everybody can get familiar with you, why don't you just do an introduction on yourself? How'd you get started in the game? How'd you start this page? And we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, and so my name's Sam. As Cody said, the golf fashion guy. I've been creating content around golf clothing, fashion since end of 2017. Aim of everything that I've ever done is really to help golfers make better buying decisions. So a lot of the content I do is review based stuff on YouTube, and then I do reviews and sort of style stuff on Instagram as well. So yeah, page has been going since 2017. I got into golf around the age of 16, 17. Um, Kind of quite like the fact that I wasn't very good at it, as most of us are when we start. So I kind of like the idea of trying to get better, improving, and then always just loved the clothing side. Always just loved sort of putting outfits together and color combinations together, and yeah, it kind of grew and grew and grew through sort of early years of playing, and then I eventually got to a stage where I could turn pro and started my PGA sort of coaching degree over here in the UK, and working in a golf shop. That's kind of where it started to accelerate a little bit. I had a chance to get my hand on some product and learn a little bit more from the reps and colleagues on what's good, what's coming out, what should we be looking out for, so on and so forth. And yeah, I used to do a lot of teaching, used to do a lot of coaching, and yeah, just got to a stage with when you're a golf pro and you work at a golf club, you see a lot of the same faces. You obviously you go into the same place day in day out, and don't get me wrong, the life of a golf pro is awesome, it's fantastic, but it does get quite samey.
Mm.
And sort of towards the end of 2017, I wanted to do something a little bit different. And friends of mine said, why don't you do something on Instagram, do something on YouTube, like start, you talk a lot about clothing, you love your clothing, you love your shoes. Why don't you start, trying to do something with that on social media and have a social media account to that point. Like, didn't even have a personal Instagram or anything like that. Never picked up a camera before in my life. Never edited a video and do anything like that. Like I'd say to people, I was just a golf pro. I gave lessons. I worked in the pro shop. That was kind of what it was. So yeah, it kind of started a bit out of nowhere, and it's grown into yeah, a really nice community. It's like I've got a lot of fortunate to have a lot of great followers, a lot of people who I've considered friends and made friends off the back of social media, which is really really cool. Obviously now yourself included, Cody, in that, which is sweet. So yeah, that's kind of how we got here, really.
I love it. Yeah, you and I talked off camera about that a lot, and I think that's something that we both share a mutual interest for the game of golf. Is it's not just the fact that you can tee it up and go play, and it's a game within yourself. It's largely between your ears, but it really is about the community and the relationships too that you're able to build. The times whenever you're you're the single and you get paired up with a group and they turn out to be a really fun group of guys and you exchange numbers, you get to play again, or you have that single that joins your group and it's sort of the same thing back and forth. Um, so yeah, it's super cool how the relationships and the community part of the game have come in, and I'm also just fascinated with the fact that you had never picked up a camera. Social media was foreign to you at the time. You were just a golf pro, right? Just a golf pro.
Yeah.
And then now, now you're doing some really, really cool stuff, and especially as it's right up your alley, all things related to golf fashion.
Yeah, like the not picking up a camera and stuff before. I've always been. I watched a lot of sort of creative people, you should say, on YouTube. I've consumed a lot of content for a long time. I was a big YouTube watcher long before long before I started on social media and started doing YouTube. And I'm a big sneaker guy. I love my shoes. I used to consume loads of sneaker content, and there was a lot of sneaker content out there that was really well produced. And I always wanted my videos to be well produced. I thought there was an element of trust that you could build up with a viewer if they thought that the content that you put out was professional looking, and if I could match um, my sort of content that I was putting out with regards to sort of professional, good information that was going to help people. If I could do that in a professional setting and make the videos look as good as possible, then that was what I was going to do. So did loads of deep dives into lighting and cameras and equipment and lenses and all that stuff that I had absolutely no idea about. As I said, just a golf pro, and yeah, got to a stage where I now make content for some of the best brands in golf, and having done that off the back of just picking up a camera and starting to learn how to use it is pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of myself for that. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally see why. I mean, that's such a cool, sort of progression of having no familiarity, no background to now you're working with some of the best brands in the sport to produce some really, really solid content. So I'm curious to, being the golf fashion guy, right? The best dressed golfer in the East region. Who are some players that have really stuck out to you that have like more or less inspired the way that you look at golf fashion?
Yeah, the tour's always been a massive inspiration for me. It's interesting now, and I'm sure we'll get onto this at some point today, but the tour has always been a big inspiration, and social media wasn't a thing 10, 15 years ago. So the tour was all you had to go off for inspiration. There wasn't social media accounts that look cool or anything like that. You didn't have that. So the tour for me, Billy Horschel has been one. A guy who came out on tour 2011 for me hasn't really missed with a fit since. Like the guy is great when it comes to what I love about golf fashion is uh, I love the putting combinations together. It's putting the trouser color with the shirt color. How do you add a belt into that complements the outfit, and then what do you do with your shoes and your cap? That's for me what golf fashion for me has always been about, and Billy Horschel does that probably better than anyone. Like you'll see, Rory McIlroy every now and again will wear a black cap with an outfit with a pair of white shoes and the outfit kind of screaming out for just a white hat, but for some reason he'll just wear a black hat and you kind of throws you off a little bit.
Yeah.
But Billy Horschel wouldn't. You've never seen him miss with an outfit. But you got a lot of guys now. Like a lot of guys dress like current day dress very well. You got Justin Thomas is one. Adam Scott is one. Adam Scott. You look at people who clothes just hang well off his body.
Mm.
Like I feel like Adam Scott could wear pretty much anyone and anything and look really good, any brand and look really good. So yeah, I think Billy Horschel and Adam Scott for me are two guys that I look at and go, if I could go out on the golf course and look half as good as those guys, I feel like I'd be doing something right.
Yeah, those are studs in the game for sure. I mean, Adam Scott's been around for so long. I think what this was 95 straight major championships, somewhere in that neighborhood with the latest PGA. I mean, he not only has his game stood the test of time, but I would say his apparel and his fashion has as well. He's had a couple questionable outfits here and there, which, enough at
Yeah.
bats. You're going to have some that maybe aren't quite as good. But I love that. I think those are great guys, and completely agree. Billy Horschel always looks so sharp. Um,
Mm.
so, whenever you look back at sort of like older pictures, older photos of people prior to sort of our time, who sticks out at you the most as some players that really sort of like revolutionized golf fashion?
Players, not so much. So I was obviously doing a little bit of research, Cody, in preparation for our conversation today, and just going through some old sort of images and stuff of majors. The '70s, around the '70s, was a massive era in golf fashion. I feel like that's when it really started to take on a bit of a life of its own. You've got Tom Weiskopf, you've got I made some notes here, Seve, you've got Johnny Miller, Arnold Palmer, Lee Trevino. There's a great picture I found on the internet today of three or four guys all standing there laughing and joking around, and it's they got big collars, it's pocket shirts, it's slightly higher waisted trousers with a little bit of flair going on, and they've got some yellows and there's greens and there's browns and there's like rich colors that you just didn't really get before then. And then I think a lot of brands' inspiration in the current day is looking back at that sort of 70s, 80s era of it just going a bit mad. And I look at 86 Masters, what Jack Nicklaus was wearing final round of that very one of the most famous major championships in history, and the outfit that he had on that day kind of encapsulates that era, I think, of golf fashion. But yeah, I'd say like no one in particular, but the '70s as an era was obviously culturally across the globe. It was an interesting time in itself, but yeah, it's certainly golf fashion wise, it feels like it sort of took on a life of its own, shall we say?
Yeah, yeah. I think if I recall correctly, Jack Nicklaus in '86, he was wearing the yellow polo with like plaid pants, no
Yeah,
hat. I want to say
no,
white golf shoes,
yeah.
something in that neighborhood. But yeah, he definitely captured everything of that era at that point in time.
Yeah, it's been an interesting era since. Like I was sort of going back through the archives as I was. It's interesting to sort of see how the '70s was big, and then how it sort of calmed down but stayed somewhat the same through the '90s. Like you look at some of the pieces of knitwear that Faldo was wearing sort of during the '90s, late '80s, '90s, winning his major championships, and a lot of the Pringle design, triangle sort of design. I'm trying to think of the right name for that. I'm sure it's got Harlequin design. Is that it? I think that might be it. But that kind of the triangles down the front, um, that was very big in that time, and then that kind of then bled into '90s Tiger Woods coming on the scene, and everything seemed to be oversized cotton for about 15, 20 years until you get to the technical stuff that we sort of have today.
Yeah. Yeah, so I did a little bit of research myself as well. Obviously, you're the in-house expert coming on the show
I
today.
try.
But I've been fascinated with golf history as you and I talked about previously, and just getting to know different players, eras, different tournaments, just really sort of diving deep into the history of a lot of these players. And being a native Texan here in the United States, really easy for me to really lean into somebody like Ben Hogan, right? And I want to highlight Ben Hogan here in a bit, but kind of, starting from the beginning, really, of sort of the evolution of golf fashion. Call it like the 1700s, 1800s. It was very much so, much more formal back then, right? You had
Yeah.
you had people essentially wearing suits, tweed jackets, wool trousers, flat caps. It wasn't necessarily about, sort of the performance element. It was more so of I want to look like a gentleman, right? This is a gentleman's sport.
Yeah, golf was a stature thing, right? Back
Right.
then, that was what you wore if you were someone, or the sport you played if you were someone of importance, and in society then that's you dressed in your tweed jackets. It was tweed jackets. It was ties, man. Do you remember the look that I think Justin Thomas put together, where he wore the cardigan I think it was a U.S. Open, it might have been Aaron Hills, um, around that sort of time, 2017, 2018, with when he had the tie on, and it's really paying homage to those early, that really early, and that's like golf was what 1400s, 1500s earliest playing up in Scotland, and yeah, that's what the outfits were. It was the long socks, it was the plus fours, stockings. I mean, I think I've got a few bits written down here that yeah, a lot of tweed, a lot of jackets, like flat caps, like flat hats. Um, yeah, crazy time. And the thing is, like, it didn't really change too much from that time up until like 1920s. Kind of, it didn't really. You think of like how long that is, that gap in time between 1500 and 1900. Like that's it's a lot of time passes, and nothing seems to you know change in golf fashion in that time
Yeah.
until that sort of 20s.
Yeah, definitely very traditional, and then as it evolved into the 1900s, that's where you had guys like Walter Hagen and Bobby Jones, where, Walter Hagen was a little bit more of a sort of expressive dresser. He would have tailored suits, silk shirts, he'd be rocking the plus fours, still paying homage to, the earlier days of the game. And then Bobby Jones, kind of like on the other side of that, still looked very crisp, very clean, the plus fours, but very much so sort of the Southern gentleman style. And that was around for quite some time, right? Sort of moved from from the tweed jackets to more of like sweaters, and then still the ties, and then slacks started to get introduced, and plus fours didn't become quite as popular of a thing. Um, Still a few people that would like to rock the outfits of the old time, but um, the early 1900s really started to, that was, I guess, the first real movement in golf fashion turning towards some other stuff, right? And then as you fast forward into like the 50s and 60s, that's really when I think it started to accelerate quite a bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's and I want to. There's one thing I wanted to touch on, is so historically we obviously today talk about apparel and how the fashion has changed. Footwear is something that we can't really not mention in the conversation. And one thing I wanted to allude people to is the brand FootJoy was first started. I think I've got it here. 1857
Hmm.
was when the brand FootJoy started. It didn't start as FootJoy. It started as Burt and Packard shoe company, and then was shortly became the Flint and Field company. And they Packard is still a name that's used for FootJoy shoes now, as we all know. And the Flint was up until about a year or two ago that the Field still is.
Hmm.
Um, which FootJoy only became FootJoy in 1923 when the company released a shoe with FootJoy as the name of it, which I think historically, you think of like Nike was, I think 1984, Nike released their first golf shoe.
Hmm.
You think we're talking history in the game, a brand like FootJoy, who have been making golf shoes for that long, is insane to me. So one thing, yeah, don't want to leave the shoes out of the conversation. So, but yeah, 1920s is when it started to get change a little bit fashion wise.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing up the shoes because that is such a critical element. I mean, these were basically dress shoes back then just happen to have some spikes in the bottom.
Yeah.
So I'm putting myself in the position of these guys that were playing back then. Conditions still got sketchy at times, but I mean, they're walking. All of these golf carts are not a thing, nor are they
Yep.
even really a thing. Especially, in places like Scotland and Ireland, starting to become a little bit more of a thing now, but still very traditional. You walk the course. So I'm just trying to put myself in the position of going out and walking 18 or 36 holes in competition and legit dress shoes that were not the most comfortable things in the world. So, yeah, great shout out on the shoe side. I've actually got here coming up in a little bit, a little bit of some info from a Ben Hogan book that I read previously with some interesting stuff from him on the golf shoe side. But
Okay. I look forward to hearing that. Definitely.
yeah. So, in the 50s and 60s, this was sort of the emergence of, you had the Ben Hogans of the world. You had Arnold Palmer starting to come on the scene, people like Gary Player, right? Arnold Palmer definitely was one of those guys that he just made golf cool. Like everybody wanted to look like Arnold Palmer, right? He was a stud. Um, Ben Hogan as well. I mean, he was very much so clean cut, always, sharp crease in his slacks. Everything that he did had intention, which is something that I really appreciate. And somebody like Ben Hogan, and obviously he took the same approach with his golf game and in large parts of his life too. But the signature flat cap that he would also rock, which wasn't as popular of a thing, but he just kind of strikes me as somebody who liked to be able to pay their respects to sort of the history of the game, and that was sort of his version of expressing that. So I'll actually jump ahead to the Ben Hogan information that I learned about in a book.
Yeah.
So he actually had custom shoes that were made back in the day for him. They had an extra spike that was like in the middle of the sole, particularly under like the instep or the arch. And this was all his effort to be able to have spikes that would really work well from sort of a balance and stability perspective as he made his golf swing. So just his obsession with perfecting the golf swing and everything that goes into it went all the way down to one extra spike in his golf shoes, which is really incredible. He was actually working with a company at the time called Etonic. It was a prominent golf shoe brand from the mid 20th century. They were one of the top, footwear brands of the time, and it was actually in Brockton, Massachusetts, where this company was headquartered. They were often referred to as the shoe capital of the world up in that area. But they were founded back in 1876. A guy named Charles A. Eaton. He was the one that created the company. But I just thought it was fascinating how somebody like Ben Hogan, um, he didn't leave any stone unturned, right? He was always trying to look for how can I continue to really level up my game. And it came all the way down to, his footwear and having that extra spike. Because for him, and what I've learned about him is that he puts such a priority on really sort of the base of the golf swing. It's really the foundation of everything, right? So if he felt like he wasn't able to keep that stability or his balance was a little bit off, I could totally understand why he would be, hitting up these companies to be like, hey, we need to fix this.
Yeah, it's really cool because you think of, for me immediately I think modern day, and you think of who's doing that modern day, and like Jason Day and Painter are probably a good sort of comparison. You've got a lot of players now who are obsessive over footwear, and Jason Day to work alongside Painter, and you see that shoes created in his vision, and to know that Ben Hogan was doing that back in 1950 to try and be the best golfer that he could possibly be, and how the game has stayed the same but yet moved through time, and there are still players adopting the same things that those guys were doing back in 1950 is very, very cool.
Yeah, I think it's just like the championship mindset, right? Of these guys wanting to be the best in the world. They want to be able to compete in the majors and every single tournament that they tee it up in. And as you know, as somebody who is a former golf professional and also played yourself, any edge you can get on your competition is you'll take it, right? So Tiger obviously has done a lot of this with Nike and a lot of other brands as well to really optimize what he feels is necessary for him to go out and compete to the best of his ability. But um, going back a little bit to sort of that time of the 50s, 60s, Gary Player is somebody that comes to mind for me, the Black Knight, right? Him rocking the all black attire. Was kind of going against the grain for the time, right? Because it was a lot more formal, right? Press slacks, very clean cut looking. Arnold Palmer obviously started to mix in some pastels and other colors that were starting to come to light before kind of the 70s and 80s. And Gary Player was just like, I'm just gonna wear all black, which I kind of like. Like I like an all black look. It's not something that I can rock all the time because I live in Texas, and if I wear all black in the summer, I'll die of heat exhaustion. But
Yeah.
when weather permitting, I think that is for me personally one of like the cooler golf looks is sort of that inspiration from the Black Knight.
Yeah, it was taken on by Phil as well, right? Phil in final rounds. Was it final rounds of majors where he'd go all black for a time? Yeah,
Yep.
it's a strong look. All black is a strong look, and I been fortunate enough to meet Mr. Player on a number of occasions. Very interesting guy. Listening to stories that he would tell in the times I was in his presence was very cool. But yeah, a very and he's part of that time with the guys of Nicholas and Palmer and going back then and how the fashion changed and you know all black look is great, but Mr. Player would frequently rock an all white look as well. He'd go white night every now and again
Yeah.
as well, which is pretty sick to go both sides. So yeah, very very much again another guy who it's tough to find guys in that era that like 50s 60s 70s who like didn't dress well. Like it was a time where like it was tough to not look good, and I don't know whether that's because they're just inherently more stylish people back then. I can't see how that could be the case, but it could be, or it could be just that what people were wearing in society back then was just it just had more style than maybe we do now. Maybe we have too many options now, and
Yeah.
what they were wearing back then was yeah, very much like that's just what we wore, and it just meant that like, and it just looked good. I don't know that that could be the answer. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think you're onto something here because I've seen pictures of people whenever they were flying on airplanes back in the day, and they've got their newspapers out, they're smoking cigarettes on the plane, but everybody was dressed very formal, right? In full suits or dresses for the ladies. So I think it was a product. It's probably both things, right? They just had this inherent sort of fashion that they wanted to really dive into, but also it had to have been sort of the social construct too of the time because they were much more formal. They would dress more formal on more occasions versus now if you get on a flight, it's like everybody's wearing sweatpants and basketball shorts and just looks like they just rolled out of bed and walked to the gate basically.
Yeah, I have one of my neighbors in my street, Mike. He must I think he's in his 80s, and like he'll be out and he'll be doing gardening stuff out the front of his house, and he'll have like a jacket and tie on and he'll be like trimming hedges
Yeah.
and that sort of stuff. It was just a different time. Like I love that. Like I love the formal side of things. I think it was a very it would have been a very interesting time to have lived through because it just as you say like everyone was just dressed smarter. Uh, so yeah, that could be it.
Yeah. So, evolving from sort of the 50s and 60s, we then got into the 70s and 80s. And this is where really golf fashion got pretty loud, right? A lot of brighter colors, you had guys like Chichi Rodriguez, Jack Nicklaus, Sevi, who you mentioned earlier, really wearing some very bold apparel and sort of taking golf fashion to the next level. And that was one of my questions for you, coming into this too, was what era sort of sticks out to you the most? And you talked earlier about the 70s, 80s, and that sense. Do you feel like that is kind of like if you had to go back in time and live in a particular era from a golf fashion perspective, would that be it, or would it be something else?
Yeah, without a doubt. Like without a doubt, it was looking back through it. I love around Masters time. I will watch pretty much every Masters official film that is available on. We have Sky here in the UK. Um, call it cable for want of a better word, and they've got all of these on demand that you can watch all of these Masters official films. And just looking at what the guys were wearing back then, it was I love colors. I love being able to put colors together. I love it when brands come out with, and this is like you look at what Ludwig Oberg was wearing for the Masters this year, the Adidas Originals collection that they've recently um, launched a part of. There's still more to come from that collection, which hasn't come out yet. But what has come out, you look at the colors. It's yellows, it's greens, it's navies. You've got so many rich colors in there, and that collection takes inspiration from that time. And yeah, I just the ability. And for me, that's what style is. That's people putting outfits together. It's choosing to wear that yellow with those green trousers, or those yellow trousers with that green top, or navies and blues and reds. And yeah, it just at that time was where people really started to express themselves, and look like that kind of maybe coincides with color TV as well. Like people that was being broadcast out there to more and more people. More and more people were starting to see that back then, black and white. Who knows whether that's a yellow polo or a green polo or whatever, right? But like you start to see that color TV is introduced, it starts to take on a life of its own.
I hadn't thought about that until you just mentioned it, but that had to have played an impact in why these guys wanted to dress so loud is because now for the first time they were able to be, televised and it was in color. So you could really get a true representation of what they were wearing, not just the black and white film.
Yeah, I need to find out when that first televised major championship would have been in color. I don't know. We might have to do a little bit of research into that, but yeah, it has to have had some played on the mind of these guys a little bit. That yeah, that's sort of impacted their decision making when it came to their apparel.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I mean, as the game sort of evolved out of the 80s, you had guys like Payne Stewart who started to dress much more traditional, right? Rocking the plus fours, a lot of different kind of sponsorships that he had with different NFL and ML, Major League Baseball teams. But he was somebody who really, took ownership of the fact that this was going to be his style, which I love, right? Like Payne Stewart gone way too soon. Incredible, incredible player, but he was somebody who really wanted to, be able to express himself in the most traditional sense, which was so cool to be able to see a modern player for the time wearing those sorts of clothes. Um, Something else too, actually going back to one of your earlier comments about Ludwig's outfits. It's interesting for the Masters itself. There are certain colors that just seem to really jive well with a green jacket, right? Obviously, like the yellows, like what Jack Nicklaus would wear. Navy has been a big one. I mean, Rory wearing navy, Scotty wearing navy, obviously Tiger in the red. Somehow the red and the green works. Maybe it's just the Tiger effect. I don't know. But it does seem like some of those core colors tend to match well with the green jacket. So I wonder if some of the players know that and they try to, make sure that their Sunday outfit is the one that is going to look the best in the green jacket.
Yeah, you would have to, right? Like if I was going to play in the Masters and I genuinely had a chance at winning it, then my Sunday outfit is going to look really, really good with a green jacket. Like that, it just has to be on your mind. There's some outfits that some of the recent champions would have wore. Patrick Reed, 2018, wearing like a hot pink polo shirt on the Sunday, I believe. Could be wrong on that, but I don't think I am wrong on that. Terrible, just terrible. And you can't put that outfit together knowing that. I don't know, what was he no, I think he was what, one back or two back of Rory going into the final round, or around the lead. Can't quite, he was around the lead anyway going into the final round, so he had a chance.
Yeah.
You can't wear that hot pink polo shirt on Sunday at Augusta. Should not have been allowed. The green jacket should have turned around to him and said, "Look, Patrick, for this presentation that we're going to do here, you got a white polo shirt that you just go and throw on for this for us."
Yeah.
But there you go.
Yeah, I just did a quick Google search, and sure enough, he was rocking the hot pink shirt. Not just the
Tough.
hot pink shirt too. It's got like the black stripes on sort of like the torso rib area. Um,
I wasn't. I wasn't. I mean, we might touch on this at some point. That wasn't Nike's finest era between sort of 2015 to 20, even into to present day. To be, they do some better stuff now, but around that time, Nike they were going through a tough stage with a lot of players all dressed the same. There wasn't like a lot of. There's a picture at Augusta of Paul Casey and Carl Stanley. I think they're on either 12 green or 13 T, and they are in the same outfit playing together. It's an all black fit. It's a black polo shirt that's got a bit of pattern to it, and they're wearing the same outfit, which is tough scenes.
you got to think the Nike rep coming out of that probably got a pretty stern talking to.
You
Um,
like to you like to think so, but like it's just down to their designers. Like, guys, just
yeah,
design some better gear, and maybe have a deeper catalog. So these guys, there's a lot of guys out there who wear Nike. Like, it's great that the reps are able to get the gear on the backs of so many players, but just give us a little bit more depth in these collections. But that's, maybe we might get onto that in a little bit more detail a little later on.
yeah. So, as we sort of evolve, past the 70s and 80s with the really bold colors and designs and fashion, we then sort of emerge into the 90s and 2000s. Insert Tiger Woods, right? Much more of the performance of things coming in, tech fabrics, stretch materials, more of like the athletic fits. Even though in the 90s it was still kind of loose cotton, more loose fits, but as the game emerged, it's interesting to see sort of the evolution of dating back to the 1700s and 1800s, right? With people like old Tom Morris, again, wearing the tweed jackets, neckties, very formal, to then you fast forward to see Tiger in like the 97 Masters wearing something that is night and day different. So I guess what kind of sticks out at you within that era of the game too?
What, around Tiger time?
Yeah, 90s, early 2000s, around then.
Yeah, nineties, early 2000s. Like, it was just, the sport was Tiger Woods. Like, I don't think I can, even in looking through the internet as I was earlier today. Like, you wouldn't have found many stylish photos of like a VJ Singh or an Ernie Els, or want to kind of call this mid to late 90s, early 2000s. People like Nick Price, like these guys, they weren't putting fits together, and the sport just became Tiger Woods, and it became Sunday Red. It became like what was the polo that Tiger was going to wear on a Sunday at whatever major championship that he was about to stroll to a 6-shot win in. And that was, yeah, you had the wider leg trousers for a time. You had a lot of oversized gear. Tiger was probably wearing an extra large when he probably should have been wearing a medium. But do you know what? I should have been wearing a small at that time, and I was probably wearing a large, because he wanted to look like Tiger. Like, Tiger's the reason why I'm sat here. Like, I probably wouldn't have picked up a golf club if it wasn't for his impact on the sport, right? And when I was first starting to play the game. That was around the time of Tiger's dominance, just the most dominant athlete potentially of any sport that has existed in all of time potentially. Who knows? But might be a sweeping statement, but I don't think I'll probably be far off with that. But you just wanted to look like him, just as a young lad playing golf. You just I had the red polo, I had the navy, I had the black sleeveless V-neck slip over. I had the black trousers. Like, unfortunately, my parents weren't going to be fueling my love for golf fashion quite as much as I do on myself now. So I only had a pair of white shoes back then, and I can't tell you how much it devastated me that I wasn't able to pull the full Sunday Tiger look off with the black shoes with that outfit. Like, you go back to '05 Masters, chip in at 16. That fit for that day is just peak Tiger. But going like taking Tiger back from like around the 2000s, starting to move into that's when we got the mock neck as well. The mock neck was like turtleneck kind of that sort of, oh man, what a time that was. I had
So
maybe
you were a
two of those. I loved whatever Tiger did. If Tiger did something, if Tiger wore something, that was what you had to wear. Like, if he was playing a tour accuracy golf ball, I was playing a tour accuracy golf ball. If he's putting with a mallet putter, I'm putting with a mallet putter. Not mallet, blade. Sorry. If he's like that Scotty Cameron that he had all that success with, like, if that's how he did it, that's how I did it. Like, he had an interlocking grip, so I had an interlocking grip. Like, you just that time you just wanted to be do everything that he did, and that for me that included dressing as well. So yeah, that was that mid 2000s time was just all about him. Like, it just wasn't anyone else really in the sport that not only got the airtime, because you need the airtime in order to you know get your looks across and be able to build a reputation. If you dressed well but you weren't winning any tournaments, Tiger was winning them all, then you weren't going to get too much TV time. You weren't going to be able to show people just how stylish you were because the guy in the red shirt is picking up the trophy on Sunday. So yeah, that time was just peak everything Tiger. Mock necks, red shirts. He actually wore some great stuff. Like, there's a couple of I've watched so many official films of Tiger over the years. He wore he wore like a lime polo shirt with some beige slacks. I want to say like the Wachovia Championship, which is now the Truist, used to be the Wells Fargo, at Quail Hollow. And I'm sure he was wearing like a sort of a lime green polo shirt in that. Like, oh man, that
white
time, I
hat
think,
he was wearing then too.
yeah, white hat, white shoes, like
Yep. Yep.
talk about the shoes, like that, the Nike era of shoes around that time, mid 2000s, when he was wearing the one of my favorite shoe silhouettes to ever release was the Nike SP8.
Mm.
Um, that was one of the best. If you're able to find overlay an image of that shoe, that just all white, just glorious looking golf shoe, minimalist style, but still had a sporty element to it as well, which kind of encapsulated Nike at the time.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was a look. That shoe was so good, so good, so like minimal in the branding,
Yeah.
but just classy, just really really good. Like, love that time. That time was just all Tiger until 2007, 2008. That's when other brands started to really come into the fray, and yeah, you had a few more players making some waves, um, and then that time up till present, it's probably changed a lot.
Yeah. I'm with you 100%. Tiger is a big reason why I got into the game. I played a ton of other sports before golf, and getting the invite from my best friend to go play whenever we had an off week. We're playing select baseball and we had an off weekend, and he hit me up and was like, "Hey, you want to go play golf?" I was kind of indifferent about it. Didn't necessarily. I wasn't jazzed up about going to play golf, but I kind of figured like whatever, like I've got nothing else better to do. So here I was, throwing together what outfit I thought looked appropriate for my first round of golf. I've got my grandfather's old set of clubs, the wooden fairway woods, the old irons, and things like that. And I just got hooked. And I knew who Tiger was at the time, of course, because who didn't? He was a global icon. And it was sort of the combination of going out to play that first round of golf and then also it being Tiger's prime that I just went all in on all things Tiger. So same to you. Like I wanted to do everything that Tiger was doing, and I think every young guy of that time was trying to emulate Tiger in some form or fashion.
Oh, without a doubt. I think if you're playing golf and you're around, I'm 35. If you're around sort of my age, maybe a little bit older, you would have caught more of Tiger when you were a little bit more aware of sort of, you're not aware too much of what's going on when you're a kid. But if you get into your early teens and you were watching Tiger at his peak around that time, you can't not be influenced by the guy. So yeah, it just he was just it. He was just the reason why we all did it, right?
Yeah. So a few questions for you to wrap up this portion anyways. You've got to pick one former player. So somebody who, let's say before we were born, we're about the same age. You have to pick one former player to dress like. Who is it?
Uh, Former player to dress like. Um, I'm just gonna because we mentioned him a few times today, and I think he was just an absolute legend and a pioneer in many ways. I'd probably say Arnold Palmer.
Mm.
He looked great in gear. He had a great frame and a great body. Like he was physically a very strong guy, and I think that definitely came off in the clothing that he wore. Like I think it says a lot when you've got a good frame that clothes just hang well off. I think that goes a long way when it comes to dressing with style. So yeah, I'll go. I'm happy with that decision. I'll go with Arnold Palmer. I don't think you can go far wrong there. Sebi was a great one as well.
Yeah,
I did love it. The Sebi look, the navy and the white it's just an absolute classic. The V-neck sweaters that he used to wear, just again classic. You could pick anyone truly in that 70s era, and I don't think you'd be far wrong in your selection.
yeah, I'm with you 100%. Arnie's a great pick. So last couple is favorite golf course that you have played to date.
So you put this down in notes, and I'm gonna hit you with a I'm gonna go a couple of different ways, and I have multiple answers for this. The reason why I have multiple answers for this is best or favorite golf course that you've played is very subjective, right? So you try and look at a golf course objectively. You try and look at it by going, oh, is the architecture good? Is it good in good condition? Blah blah blah. But ultimately, our enjoyment of a game of golf is sometimes made up of who we're playing with, the weather is in there, how we're playing is in there. So I'm going to hit you with a couple. If I was to go back and have one day of golf that I've already had again, I would have 36 holes at Winged Foot. I had that last September, played the West Course in the morning, East Course in the afternoon. Unbelievable company, the full experience of that golf club. The weather was 25 degrees, 30 degrees, which Fahrenheit's probably 70s, up around sort of the mid to high 70s. Not a cloud in the sky, and then finish the day with an Arnold Palmer sat on the back of the 18th green of the West Course, sipping away on an Arnold Palmer. Like life doesn't get better than that moment right there. So if I was to do one day of golf again, I would do that day. I really want to play St Andrews Old Course again. I played that last couple of months ago. Last month. I played there last month. Would love to experience that again. Have another go round at that golf course. Obviously special for a number of reasons, but it's a really fun golf course to play as well. Like there's not tons of trouble out there. It's not gonna it's not going to bite you every time you hit the golf ball offline. It's an enjoyable round of golf, which I like. That's the reason I used to play when I was younger, and I played a little bit more, and I was probably a better player than I am now. I would every time I went to play a new golf course, championship golf course, I'd be wanting to play off the back tees, be wanting to play where the pros play, end up shooting a horrible score and walking off having not really enjoyed it all that much. So now I like a slightly friendlier place. But I would say those two, favorite course, very cliche to say St Andrews Old Course. But yeah, if I was going to do a day of golf again, I would do Wingfoot definitely.
Yeah, well, the good thing is there are no wrong answers because it is your favorite golf course.
There you
And
go.
I hear it, even if it was like your home club that you grew up playing and it was like the first course that you got familiar with, it doesn't have to always be the championship caliber, Golf Digest top 20 ranked course. It could literally be a muni that you played that just
Yeah,
really sort of, left a mark on you.
yeah, I'd like. Yeah, I grew up playing a golf course called Chesterfield Downs, which is a pay and play golf course just outside of my hometown of Stevenage, just north of London. That's where I grew up playing the sport. That place will always hold a very special place in my heart. So yeah, one of my again another of my favorite golf courses. You said, Sam, we're going to go and have a game of golf there tomorrow. Sweet, looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
Yeah, love it. Well, we're gonna take a little breather, but we got a lot more to talk about. I feel like we're just scratching the surface. Want to get into more of the modern side of things too. So we'll go ahead and just wrap up this first part. For the ages, YouTube, Instagram, X, do whatever you want to do with it. Sam, thank you for joining the first segment, and we'll jump into part two here shortly.
Yeah, man, looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.